My name is Nazir. Most people know me as Naju. I'm 36 and I have obsessive compulsive disorder with mixed anxiety and depression. Right, why am I telling you this? I'm trying something new. A lot of people belittle OCD, maybe unintentionally, by making statements like, oh, I'm a little bit OCD about this or that, or my appearance or my desk being clean or something like that. And it really takes away and minimizes what OCD actually is. It's become so much part of our daily language that we actually use it in comical ways. I've seen merchandise, t-shirts and badges, whatnot, that say, I have OCD, obsessive coffee disorder, or obsessive Christmas disorder. And it just shows that there is a lack of understanding for what OCD actually does to a person. But I think the last 2 years, with what COVID has done, has brought a lot of anxiety to a lot of people who weren't previously suffering from anxiety, and has kind of given us a taste of what it must be like for someone with OCD. The truth is, OCD can take many forms, and as much as I am an OCD washer, I'm also an OCD checker. Many other people have different types of OCD. It manifests in different ways, or it changes as time goes on, but the underlying problems are not necessarily the stimuli. It's not necessarily what is going on in the environment, but it's actually the way of thinking that we have developed, perhaps due to trauma, perhaps due to other environmental factors, perhaps due to a whole myriad of things that have collectively created this environment for the person, and they just cannot deal with it, and so they develop these anxiety-driven behaviors because it's the only way they can cope with it. What I've learned most recently is that OCD actually goes deeper than just the fears and the anxiety. It's actually the way in which the brain processes thoughts. And for me, in particular, OCD blurs the lines between a thought and a feeling. The thought process and the emotional response that comes from the thought. And what ends up happening is, I don't think, I feel. And that's something that therapy has actually opened my eyes to. And I can now see where a thought immediately triggers an emotion, an emotional response. But I'm not experiencing the thought, I'm experiencing the emotion in an overwhelming way. And so my body tries to handle it almost like a reflex. And those reflexes are driven by the path to least resistance. It's driven by the things that will give me immediate relief from the anxiety. And so OCD causes us to become ritualistic. It causes us to develop these rituals. They are short-term breaks away from the anxiety. So when I feel this burst of anxiety, when I feel contaminated and I wash my hands, that anxiety is relieved a small amount, but it's like a pressure cooker. The amount that's being released is not enough. I'm not dealing with the issues, I'm just pushing it aside for a little while. And so that pressure cooker is building up until it reaches a point where it's going to explode. Now, COVID did something interesting. It brought to the rest of the world this idea that you had to remain clean and avoid the contamination. That was the point of the lockdowns, right? To stop the spread. Suddenly, the masses who were okay, who had not really been thinking about, oh, I've just touched this, I better not touch my eyes, or I've, pick up a newspaper and start licking their fingers to turn the pages. Those things, now people were being asked by the government to keep an eye on, to think about, where has that paper been? Where have your hands been? What did you touch? Who's in your proximity? Could they be infected? And then we were told, wash your hands for 20 seconds, wash it in a particular way, use alcohol rub. We were told to do the rituals that people with OCD perhaps have been doing for years. And that was particularly difficult for me because I just finished one round of therapy, of CBT, and I was doing really well. The OCD thinking had reduced, my rituals had gone down, and then all of a sudden, the world stops and says, oh, hey, remember all that stuff that you spent the last year trying to not do? Yeah, it's time to do them now. Very confusing message, but also massively fear-inducing, because everything I had been fearing was now being validated. So COVID hits, and it feels like I go back to square one, alongside a whole bunch of other things that have happened in my life. I fell into pretty bad depression. After all this time trying to manage my mental health, I finally decided I was going to take the medication. And I'm glad I did. I'm not happy that I'm on it, and I'm not happy that I've been on it for so long. Because one of the things about medication is they are brain-altering chemicals, literally. And so taking them there's always this fear of not being myself. The medication is a crutch. Think about it in terms of if you broke a leg, you'd need the crutch to help you to move about, to help you to be able to heal. And so the medication actually opened me up to the therapy that I started doing much more than I had expected to, or much more than I had previously been open to. And that's an important thing, because I think it gives you a different perspective, because it takes the edge off that anxiety. It numbs it a little bit, and just enough for the therapy to start to take hold. As part of my therapy, I've learned about something called ACE activities. The acronym stands for achievement, closeness to others, and enjoyment. And the idea is that any activity you do should fulfill those three criteria. My biggest passion in life is drawing and artwork. And so for me, when I do these activities, I have a sense of achievement, that's good, and I have enjoyment, and that's good. But in nothing that I do I find closeness to others. I am a real introvert. I isolate myself from the world as much as possible, because it's so difficult to actually function in that world and to be social and, to deal with people. It is really, really hard. And so I close myself off to everything. So why am I doing this? Why am I telling you all of this? Because I'm going to try now to fulfill that third criteria. I'm going to try to get closeness to others in what I do as hobbies, in my drawing. But I'm going to use social media as a way of connecting to people without actually having to go outside and connect with people. Baby steps. I'm going to ask everyone out there to give me suggestions as to what to draw. And hopefully this will build some sort of community. This will build some sort of closeness with other people and give me that baby step to being different in the way that I interact with society. Leave me some comments with suggestions of what to draw, and I'll pick one. And I'll do a drawing, I'll film it, and then I'll post it back up. And hopefully this will be another step towards my recovery and towards me changing, because it's time to do something different.